Megan Kerrigan, wife of astronomer CEO Andy Byron, has spoken up once again after the viral kiss cam moment at a Coldplay concert made headlines around the world. She first took to Facebook to share a heartbreaking message where she said she wouldn't be able to survive this and shared struggles following the incident. Since then, she has gone from sad and confused to full-blown nuclear mode on her soon-to-be divorced husband. Today, we go over the bombshell details she has revealed, as well as the status of her separation from Andy Byron. Stay tuned to see all the juicy details and the secret receipts she is now divulging to the world. 30 seconds on a kiss cam nuked a $1.3 billion reputation, torching a marriage, dragging an HR chief into the blast zone, and turning a data genius into a global meme. One hug, one panic duck of the head, one Chris Martin quip, and suddenly TikTok sleuths, Reddit cynics, and late-night comics were all prosecuting the same blurry clip. But the fakest thing that night wasn't the smile on the jumbo screen. It was the apology everyone shared, cried over, and never realized was a hoax. While timelines argued about intent, someone else quietly erased a last name and walked away without a word. So how did a feel-good concert moment morph into the messiest tech scandal of 2025? Let's rewind, but keep your eyes open. The camera wasn't the only thing zooming in. Lights drop, phones rise, and somewhere in that electric Boston crowd, a camera swings, hunting for cute reactions, not corporate implosions. It lands on Andy Byron, the $1.3 billion data whisperer CEO, shoulder to shoulder with Kristen Cabot, the very person tasked with guarding HR boundaries at his company. They don't just smile. There's a tight hug, fingers laced, a shared look that lingers too long for just coworkers. Andy dips his head like a man dodging a subpoena. Kristen shields her face as if the lens could read thoughts. The stadium howls, not for the song, but for the story they just saw born in real time. Chris Martin tries to keep spirits light. "Oh, look at these two," and the line instantly stamps itself onto 1,000 timelines. The moment's only half over. The internet is already screen recording, zooming, looping. 30 seconds of awkward intimacy, and you can literally feel the oxygen leaving astronomers' boardroom. Because when a kiss cam turns into a courtroom, every frame becomes evidence. What nobody in that section felt yet, the clip would outlive the concert. It would get slowed down, re-uploaded, dissected by amateur experts, and memed into oblivion. And before dawn, something even more perfect than the moment itself would start spreading. An apology so polished it had to be fake. But that wasn't the whole story. The internet was about to fall for a beautifully written lie. Within hours, before the sticky floors at Fenway even dried, a statement from Andy Byron materialized on X. It read like a template for public remorse, polished prose, a wounded tone about privacy violated, and a closing line stolen straight from Coldplay's Fix You. People screenshotted it, cropped it, slapped reaction emojis on it, and passed it around like gospel. Nobody asked where it came from. They just felt it. That's how hoaxes win, by sounding exactly like what we expect a shattered CEO to say. Only later did the cracks show. The source account was a parody in a blazer, fake reporter name, fake affiliation, real blue check. But by the time anyone traced the handle, the post had been folded into thousands of TikTok explainers and YouTube breakdowns, each treating the text as Exhibit A. Truth had already missed its flight. Then the pendulum swung. A second apology surfaced, same name, totally different vibe. This one tossed subtly out the window. No regrets, plus a jab that Coldplay hadn't made good music in years. Whiplash complete. Was he contrite or just bitter? Had the first one been AI generated? Was the second one a troll job? Didn't matter. Every contradiction fed the machine. The algorithm doesn't distinguish sincerity from snark. It just counts engagement. Comment wars erupted. One camp insisted the lyrical sign-off proved it was genuine. Another mocked the melodrama. Dude quoted Coldplay to save his marriage? Meanwhile, the no regrets crowd called him a villain straight out of a prestige drama. Journalists tried to call reps, verify headers, cross-check timestamps, slow, boring steps in a race already decided by virality. And buried under the noise, the most human move slipped by. Megan quietly dropped his last name from her socials, then vanished altogether. No paragraphs, no signatures, just a delete key and a new identity. It said more than any carefully worded PR script could. Because here's the harsh truth. Online, the fakest line can feel the realest if it arrives first and hits a nerve. And while everyone dissected punctuation and font choices in a bogus apology, the person most affected delivered her verdict without typing a word. While strangers argued over commas in a fake apology, Herein quietly rewrote her own headline. One day she was Megan Byron on Facebook. The next, the surname was gone. No statement, no emojis, just a clean cut. Hours later, the account itself disappeared. Instagram? Same story. Poof. In a world where pain is usually packaged as a Notes app screenshot, her refusal to perform heartbreak hit harder than any tearful live stream. That single act flipped the script. Overnight, timelines shifted from clowning the kiss cam to rallying around the woman who said nothing. Support Megan trends lit up. Tweets calling her the real queen racked up 6 figures of likes. It wasn't pity, it was respect. No messy press tour, no revenge post, just a surgical exit that made everyone else look noisy and small. And you could feel the internet recalibrate. The memes didn't stop, but the tone changed. Every replay of that hug suddenly felt meaner, every joke a little cheaper. Because once there's a face to the collateral damage, the spectacle gets teeth. Quiet dignity does that. It forces people to check themselves. Behind the scenes, friends whispered that she was lawyering up. No dramatic courthouse steps, no paparazzi shot, just the inevitable next move of someone who understands leverage better than likes. Even if she never says a word publicly, the paperwork will. Here's the kicker. Her silence wasn't absence, it was presence. It reminded everyone that beyond viral clips are lives, kids, assets, reputations. That restraint painted Andy as the frantic one, Kristen as the complicit one, and Megan as the steady center the audience instinctively chose to protect. But if Megan's deletion was a scalpel, what came next was a sledgehammer. With sympathy for her secured, former astronomer employees finally smelled blood, and they started talking. Once Megan's quiet exit reset the vibe, the floodgates inside Astronomer burst. Anonymous posts on Blind morphed from whispers into full-on dossiers. Old Glassdoor reviews, once shrugged off as disgruntled noise, got dredged up and reread with fresh eyes. Suddenly, that 2023 line about a culture built on fear and burnout didn't sound bitter, it sounded prophetic. Former staffers started stitching together a pattern. The data genius who micromanaged demo rehearsals 19 times for a 10-minute client call. The exec who valued optics over oxygen. The boss who could quote leadership books but couldn't let an intern breathe. One ex-employee dropped a screenshot from a private Slack thread. Karma is real. We warned people. It spread faster than a product launch. The mythology around Andy, the living algorithm, the guy who turns code into gold, collapsed under the weight of everyday misery. The narrative flipped from visionary to control addict in a single scroll. And the timing? Brutal. Because when a clip implies impropriety and the head of HR is in the frame, every closed-door rumor suddenly feels like the missing puzzle piece. Investors went silent. Partners quietly deleted congratulatory posts. Inside the company, sources said the board huddled on an emergency call. No press release, no internal memo, just panic damage control, and a lot of refreshing LinkedIn. Then Andy's profile vanished. Not edited. Gone. Astronomer's homepage froze like a crashed dashboard. You could practically hear the lawyers drafting NDAs. Competitors smelled opportunity. Without naming names, they began posting about ethical leadership and clear boundaries on LinkedIn, the professional version of subtweeting. Everyone knew who they meant. When rivals start moralizing, you know the blood is in the water. Here's the punchline. Those dusty reviews, the side channel warnings, the shrugged-off HR complaints, they're evidence now. Not because they're new, but because the internet finally decided to believe them. All it took was a hug on the Jumbotron to make people reread what had been public the entire time. And if a CEO's image can disintegrate that fast, what happens to the person tasked with defending company values? The one who shared his row at the concert. If Andy was the face of the brand, Kristen Cabot was its moral firewall. HR isn't just paperwork, It's the department that writes the rules, investigates the whispers, and trains everyone else on what not to do. So when the head of HR is the one in the kiss cam crosshairs, you don't just have gossip, you have a potential compliance crater. Think about the optics inside Astronomer. Every harassment module, every no power imbalance relationships slide deck, every confidential complaint suddenly looks like a punchline. Employees who once kept quiet now have the ultimate told you so moment. Because if the person who's supposed to police boundaries is seen hand in hand with the CEO, what chance did a junior analyst have when they reported something awkward in a meeting? Legally, it's a minefield. If there was a relationship, was it disclosed? Was there a recusal from performance reviews, promotions, salary decisions? Did anyone sign off on a mitigation plan? If the answer to any of those is no or we'll get back to you, attorneys start circling. Boards panic, insurance reps sweat, and plaintiff lawyers sharpen pencils. Ethically, it's worse. HR's currency is trust. The moment that's gone, employees stop reporting issues, problems go underground, toxicity compounds. An internal consultant on LinkedIn put it bluntly, when HR is compromised, the whole organism is sick. And yeah, that line got screenshotted too. The internet ran with it. TikTok's corporate tea creators stitched the clip with slides from standard HR training decks. Reddit wrote parody memos. Reminder, consensual relationships with leadership must be reported, unless it's Coldplay night. Even body language gurus weighed in. Notice how she turns away after he ducks. That's self-protection. Pop psych? Sure, but perception drives pressure. And here's the fear Astronomer can't say out loud. If employees sue now, the courtroom narrative is already scripted by millions of views. Jurors have seen the hug. They've read the fake apologies. They've met Megan. The brand damage bleeds directly into liability. For Kristen, every silence speaks. No denial, no explanation, accounts locked. Maybe lawyers told her to go dark. Maybe she's just waiting out the storm. Either way, the longer HR stays mute, the louder the hypocrisy sounds. Because this isn't just a romance rumor, it's a structural failure. And when systems fail, culture turns into content. Once the clip hit critical mass, the internet did what it does best, turned pain into punchlines and screenshots into souvenirs. TikTok turned into a forensics lab, slow-mo replays, lip-reading attempts, body language experts narrating every flinch like it was a courtroom exhibit. Reddit threads built timelines down to the second. Notice how he ducks right as the crowd roars? While Twitter, X, fired off one-liners faster than PR teams could draft denials. Elon chimed in with, "Live by the algorithm, die by the algorithm," and that line alone spawned 1,000 quote tweets. Then came the merch. Etsy shops slapped their faces on tees. Someone sold Coldplay Gate mugs. A viral drop-shipped hoodie read, "The divorce rate at Coldplay concerts is low, but not zero." Late-night TV pounced. Jimmy Fallon joked about Chris Martin stuck in a fix-you apology loop. And SNL ran a skit where a stadium kiss cam morphed into an HR deposition. When your crisis becomes sketch comedy, it's over. Your culture, not news. Hashtags did the heavy lifting. Google searches for Astronomer CEO wife spiked like an IPO. Meanwhile, parody accounts kept inventing lore. Byron and Cabot on a Coldplay-themed yacht. Megan negotiating a Netflix doc titled Unkissed, the Coldplay Cam Confession. Absurd? Absolutely. But absurdity is how people process discomfort online. It's a coping mechanism wrapped in memes. Here's what stung for Astronomer. Humor made the scandal sticky. You can argue facts. You can't argue a joke that lands. Every quip cemented the narrative. Power, hypocrisy, exposure. And every replay meant another casual viewer absorbed the story without ever reading a single real update. But while everyone else laughed, the company went radio silent. No statements, no updates, just frozen pages and vanishing profiles. That quiet wasn't calming, it was ominous. Then, silence. Not the measured strategic kind, the eerie, everything's on fire kind. Astronomer's homepage stopped updating like someone yanked the Ethernet cord. Press room, blank. Blog, stale. Their LinkedIn feed, once a parade of wins and hiring sprees, went statue still, except for one detail eagle-eyed users caught. Andy's bio vanished, not edited, erased. His personal LinkedIn, deactivated. Kristen's, locked tighter than a VC's term sheet. Inside, sources whispered about an emergency board call that stretched late into the night. No internal memo, no "we're looking into it." Just anxious department heads refreshing inboxes while lawyers drafted phrases like fiduciary duty and material reputational harm. The kind of corporate quiet where everyone suddenly remembers their NDAs. Rumors filled the gap. An anonymous tech blog claimed the board accepted a resignation, but couldn't or wouldn't say if Andy jumped or was shoved. Another suggested he was on administrative leave pending review, that classic limbo where your email still works but no one's supposed to reply. Every leak felt half true, half PR chess, exactly the blend the internet loves to fill with its own fanfic. Meanwhile, competitors went hunting. They didn't name names, too classy for that, but they rolled out thought leadership posts about transparent culture and zero-tolerance boundaries, with the timing of a shark at a blood droplet. Recruiters quietly slid into astronomer engineers' DMs. Rough week? We're hiring. The market never sleeps. It scavenges. Investors? Silent. Publicly. Privately, they were doing math. How much of astronomers' valuation was tied to Andy's persona? How many enterprise contracts could wobble if clients start asking, who's running things over there? Crisis comms firms were almost certainly on retainer by morning. But here's the paradox. They often tell you to wait. Say nothing until you know everything. The problem? On the internet, waiting looks like guilt. And that's the sting. When a brand built its story on vision and velocity, grinding to a halt becomes its own confession. The vacuum is a message. The message says, we don't know what to say yet, or we know exactly what happened and can't say it. Behind the NDA fog, one truth held. Astronomer wasn't just wrestling with a messy headline. It was facing a governance crisis. If the CEO goes, who steps in? If HR's compromised, who investigates? Every answer triggers 3 more legal questions. But zoom out, because the next layer isn't about astronomer at all. It's about how fast a jumbo screen can topple years of image training, and what that means for anyone living under the glow of a camera lens. This didn't start with a whistleblower or a leaked PDF. It started with a stadium toy meant to sell nachos and smiles. That's the new leverage point. Not boardrooms, but big screens. Not subpoenas, but screen recordings. In 2025, every public moment is a loaded gun, and the trigger is a zoom button nobody thinks twice about pressing. Executives train for earnings calls, not kiss cams. They rehearse earnings narratives, not instinctive flinches when a lens finds them. Yet that's where the facade cracked, under lights, music, and 60,000 strangers' phones. One instinctive duck, one too tight hug, and years of leadership mythology collapsed faster than a misfired tweet. It's proof of how brittle personal brands really are when they're built on polish instead of principles. And there's a deeper sting. Power dynamics don't stay neatly tucked inside HR manuals anymore. The public now spots patterns faster than compliance teams, stitching together glass door rants, viral clips, and body language hot takes into a story that feels truer than any official statement. Once the crowd senses hypocrisy, they don't need evidence, just vibes and velocity. The court of public opinion doesn't demand discovery, it demands drama. Meanwhile, the silent strategy that used to work, say nothing, wait it out, turns into accelerant online. A brand freeze reads like a confession. A wiped LinkedIn feels like admission. The absence of words becomes its own headline. Because when the crowd is addicted to closure, they'll write their own ending if you don't give them one. So what's the lesson? Image can't outrun integrity anymore. Reputation isn't a fortress, it's drywall, and the internet has plenty of hammers. The camera didn't just capture a moment, it exposed the architecture behind it. And when the chorus of "Fix You" hit the speakers right after, it sounded less like a song and more like a verdict. A hug on a jumbo screen, a fake apology everyone swallowed, a wife who said more with a delete button than any PR team ever could, an HR chief in the wrong seat at the wrong show, and a billion-dollar brand frozen by a 30-second clip. That's how fast image melts when integrity isn't welded underneath. So was this just a messy concert moment, or the most honest audit tech has had in years? Because if a kiss cam can do what audits, exit interviews, and NDAs couldn't, maybe the real watchdog isn't a regulator. It's 60,000 phones and an algorithm hungry for drama. If stories like this keep you replaying the clip in your head, stick around. The next innocent moment is already buffering.